Hello. Let's study from the Unit 11, the course A2, and I will give instructions on how to approach this lesson. Let's begin immediately with the group, the word group, which is here. Okay. Let's begin with the phonetics, and then we will read from the English. Okay. Now, after I finish, I want you to repeat. Okay. So I will read from the phonetics. I will give you some time to repeat, and then I will read from the English, and I will give you also some time to repeat. Okay, so let's begin. The first one. Are you thirsty? Are you thirsty? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. What would you like to drink? What would you like to drink? I'll have a beer. I'll have a beer. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I had a late lunch. I had a late lunch. We'd like a table for four, please. We'd like a table for four, please. Are you ready to order? Are you ready to order? What would you like to eat? What would you like to eat? Would you like some vegetables? Would you like some vegetables? I'd like some spinach. I'd like some spinach. Spinach is good for you. Spinach is good for you. There's some wine on the table. There's some wine on the table. But there isn't any water. But there isn't any water. And there isn't any bread. And there isn't any bread. There are some knives on the table. There are some knives on the table. But there aren't any forks. but there aren't any forks. And there aren't any spoons. And there aren't any spoons. Could you pass the salt and pepper? Could you pass the salt and pepper? Could you pass the oil and vinegar? Could you pass the oil and vinegar? Could I have some coffee, please? Could I have some coffee, please? Would you like some sugar? Would you like some sugar? Do you like German beer? Do you like German beer? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Do you like Australian wine? Do you like Australian wine? No, I don't. No, I don't. Do you like Turkish coffee? Do you like Turkish coffee? I don't know. I don't know. Could I have a piece of cake? Could I have a piece of cake? Could I have a cup of tea? Could I have a cup of tea? Could we have? Could we have another bottle of wine? Another bottle of wine. Could we have our bill, please? Could we have our bill, please? Okay, now, if you don't understand any of the words or any of the phrases, for example, you don't know what spinach is, you can just go to the translator, the Google Translate, and put the translation of your language and see what the exact translation is. The translator is actually quite good. It's you can find a lot of languages, and so you can translate. That will help you to understand what you're saying. Okay, now we're going to go to the grammar. A2 Unit 11 Grammar, starting with would you like, would like. I'd like some spinach is the contraction of I would like some spinach, which means I want some spinach. You can use would like because it's more polite than want. I would like is a nice way of saying I want. Let's look at the inclination, the declination. You'd like some spinach, you would like some spinach. He'd like some spinach, he would like some spinach. She'd like some spinach, she would like some spinach. We'd like some spinach, We would like some spinach. They'd like some spinach. They would like some spinach. Okay, so the contraction is consistent with all persons, also the modal. In a question, would comes before the subject. Okay, would is considered the uh, sorry, would is considered the modal, so it's an auxiliary. Would you like some spinach? The short answer, yes, I would. No, I wouldn't. Would they like to eat? Yes, they would. No, they wouldn't. Okay, let's look at the difference between would like and like. I would like some spinach means I want some spinach. I like spinach means I enjoy spinach. Would like indicates that I want to do something now or in the future. Like indicates that I always, usually, or often enjoy something. Okay? Nouns. Let's look at count and noun count, uncountable and countable. A fork is singular. Two forks is plural. We have an S at the end of fork. Fork is countable. You can count the forks, so it's quite easy to make the plural. You have singular plus plural, some water and water. So water is considered uncountable. You cannot count water. You cannot use the article a or an with an uncountable noun because a is one. I have a fork means the same as I have one fork. People is an irregular countable noun. You don't add an s on the plural form because it's always plural. People are near. That means more than one person. Three people are near. There is some water. Uncountable nouns take singular verbs. They are considered singular. Water. There is some water. Let's look at some common noun count nouns. I will read from left to right. Advice, mail, bread, water, furniture, money, cheese, rice, help, music, coffee, salt, homework, peace, wine, soup, information, traffic, fruit, sugar, jewelry, weather, tea, meat, luck, work, milk. Repeat these nouns. By repeating, you will reinforce your memory. Uncountable nouns and quantities. You can use units of measure with uncount nouns, non-count nouns, to express a specific quality. For example, I'd like some water. Some is an unspecified quantity with an uncountable noun. I'd like a glass of water is a specific quantity with an uncountable noun. I'd like a piece of fruit is a specific quantity with an uncountable noun. I'd like a piece. I'd like a cup of coffee, a glass of coffee, a piece of something, etc. These are specific quantities with uncountable nouns. Let's look at some common expressions of measure. These are specific quantities with uncountable and countable nouns. No, these are all uncountable. A bag of rice, a bunch of bananas. That's countable. A jar of pickles, a bar of soap. A can of corn, a loaf of bread. A bottle of beer, a carton of milk. A piece of cheese, a bowl of cereal. A sheet of paper, a box of candy. A head of lettuce, a tube of toothpaste. Okay, these are the exercises that you can do if you have access. Could with polite questions. You can use could to ask polite questions. It has the same form as would in the question. Could I have some spinach? Yes, I could. No, I couldn't. Could you pass the bread? Yes, you could. No, you couldn't. Let's look at questions with who, subject questions. Who can be the object of a verb in a question? In this case, you can use the normal quasi order. K-A-Q-A-S-I. That's an anagram for question word, auxiliary, subject, infinitive. Who do you know in Quebec? Who is the question word, do is the auxiliary, you is the subject, and know is the infinitive. This is very, very important that you understand this order. This is a rigid order, and it's very, very useful. Who can also be the subject of the question. In this case, the usual order, quasi, is not used. When who is the subject of a question, do not use the auxiliary, do, does, or did. Do not change the verb. The order of the subject and the verb in the question is the same as in the answer. Who did write Alice in Wonderland is not correct. Who wrote Alice in Wonderland? We have the subject, who, and the verb wrote. Who wrote? Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland. You see, Lewis Carroll is the subject, and wrote is the conjugated verb of the past tense of write. Write, wrote. Who did they see is a normal question. The answer could be Jim. In other words, they saw Jim. Who did they see? They saw Jim. They is the subject. Who saw Jim? This is a subject question with who. The answer is Paul and Alice. Paul and Alice saw Jim. Paul and Alice correspond with the idea of who. You can do exercise 4 if you have the access. There and be asking questions with how many. How many hours are there in a day? 12. There are 12 hours in a day. So how many? And then the subject. We have the verb and then the location. Okay, this is the verb to be. There is no auxiliary for the verb to be. How much is used with uncountable nouns? Hours, how many is with countable? How many hours? How many eggs? How many students? How much is used with uncountable nouns? How much champagne do we need? Okay, no article before the noun. Champagne does not have an article. Okay, let's just look quickly at prepositions. A preposition can link to nouns, pronouns, or noun phrases in a sentence. They link to people, objects, time, and locations of a sentence. Prepositions are short words that come directly in front of nouns and sometimes before gerund verbs. Prepositions of time act on, in, for, from, to, before, and after. I was born on June 4th, 1989. On comes before days and dates. I was born in 1998. In is before years, months, seasons, and centuries. I was born at exactly 2 a.m. At before precise times or times of the days and festivals. So if you imagine the length of time, the longest time are years, months, seasons, then we have days and dates, and then we have very precise specific times. I study for 2 hours a day. 4 is a duration of time. I studied from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. From and to are used together to give a duration between two times. 5 p.m., 7 p.m. So from the first time to the second time. I was born 2 minutes before midnight. I was born after midday. Here we have the prepositions of place, on, at, in. The cat is on the table. on before something with a surface, so something that is on. Dogs are in the house. In is before something inside or within confined boundaries. We can meet at the station, at before a specific point like X on a map. Prepositions of movement, to and from. He went to France last year. To is linked to the verb to go. Go is a verb of motion. I go to someplace. She came from the station. From is linked to the verb to come. I come from the station. Bag something. I drank 3 cups of milk. Of here indicates an amount or a number. Okay, so we have the the English, the phonetics, and a short description of some of the verbs, some of the forms, some of the grammar that is used in these lines, these sentences. So I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Practice as many times as you can, and go on to the next unit, Unit 12, which will be ready